Get your copy of my Amazon #1 bestseller in Science and Religion, The Magic Man in the Sky, Effectively Defending the Christian Faith. Considering the world in which we now live, you need this book. Get your copy today, Amazon.com or the WND Superstore.
You know, in spite of all of this hoopla at the University of Virginia surrounding Mother Teresa and the rest of them, there are actually important things going on in the world that you need to be aware of. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the Schilling Show Carl Gallups, who's with us. He's a pastor, a talk show host, and also a best-selling author. His book is The Magic Man in the Sky. We're talking today about the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and this should send up signals of distress to people watching around the world. Certainly not a good thing. Carl Gallups, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's my honor to be with you.
Okay, so we've had a lot of discussion about this, and as we've watched the movement on the news reports over the past several days, this was bouncing back and forth as to who they thought actually won this election. Is the result at this point definitive?
It's my understanding that it is, although approximately half the population of Egypt thinks that some shenanigans have occurred. But I know that they're celebrating it as though it is definitive, and the news is reporting it that way. So unless something breaks, I'm assuming it is, Rob.
So what do we know about the new leader of Egypt, Mr. Morsi? What do we know about him?
Well, I know more than you probably want to know. Oh, my goodness. You're right, Rob, in introducing me and this topic. This is something that should send up warning flags. It should send up warning flags to every citizen of the United States, every citizen of Europe. Of course, Israel already has the warning flags up. This is terrifying them. Mohammed Morsi is... very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a bigwig in the Muslim Brotherhood. But,
yes.
But one of the things that's very disturbing, the Muslim Brotherhood was founded in 1928 for the sole purpose of forming a one-nation, Middle Eastern Sunni Muslim nation under Sharia law. They were formed for the purpose of making sure there was no Jewish or Christian influence in the Muslim world at all. An offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood was Al-Qaeda in the 1980s and 1990s under Osama bin Laden. He wanted to make it a little more radical and to eliminate Christianity and Judaism from the world scene, particularly the United States and Israel. So Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda are first cousins, and that ought to put chills down folks' spine. But Mohammed Morsi, his wife, is a very dear friend of the mother of Abedin. Now, Abedin is Hillary Clinton's chief of staff.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. And Abedin has been with Hillary Clinton since the Clinton days. She was on Hillary Clinton's staff. She's the one, Rob, that was married to Anthony Weiner.
Oh,
and if you'll remember, Anthony Weiner was a congressman who, of course, got in trouble with the Twitter and sending the photos. But he was a Jewish congressman married to a woman, a Muslim Sunni woman whose mother, father, and brother are all bigwigs in the Muslim Brotherhood. So the Muslim Brotherhood has been in the White House and now in the State Department for decades, represented by Abedin, married to a Jewish congressman. Now ask yourself what's wrong with that picture. A Muslim woman coming from the Muslim Brotherhood does not marry a Jew. I mean, that's a death sentence. Yet she was hailed as a hero and still is. Why? Well, many people think she was practicing taqiyya. That is this Muslim practice of basically deception for the purpose of advancing the Brotherhood cause. So the whole thing, Rob, a year ago when so-called Arab Spring, that's what the news and the government called it. It sounds like a bath soap, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when the Arab Spring started, I was on the air on my program over a year ago when it started, when the headlines came across Drudge reporting that British intel was indicating that the Obama administration was directly behind the Sunni uprising in Egypt. And for 2 or 3 days after that, the Obama administration denied it until they stuck their finger in the air and thought that most of the world was hailing it as a democratic coup for Egypt. Then you'll remember that Hillary Clinton and Obama came forward and started bragging about their involvement in it, started bragging about what a wonderful thing it was. So this whole thing was orchestrated and brought about by the current administration Obama comes from a Sunni Muslim background in Kenya and Indonesia, and it was orchestrated. And now, a year ago, I said, while I was on the air, I said, well, here's what's going to happen. The Muslim Brotherhood's going to take control. It's going to throw Israel into a tailspin. They're going to begin aligning themselves with radical regimes all over the Middle East. They're going to start persecuting Christians and Jews. I said that a year ago on my show, Rob. I had people call up, they were angry at me. They said I was an alarmist and I was just trying to stir up, and couldn't I understand there was a democratic process happening? But the problem is, Rob, there's no such thing as a democratic process in the Muslim world. Sharia doesn't allow for democracy. They may have been elected by a so-called democratic process, and even that's questionable, but warning flags should be going up everywhere. Muslim Brotherhood is in the State Department through Uma Abedin. Now her very, very dear lifelong friend is now the president, brought about by the Arab Spring, initiated by the Obama administration. Israel is on high alert, and all of this happened Sunday. And, Rob, Monday, Mohammed Morsi announced that he was now, quote, rethinking his position with Israel, or Egypt's position. In other words, they're not going to, support Israel anymore, and, quote, that he was going to begin aligning Egypt with Iran. Well, we know what Iran's goal is, and that's the complete destruction of Israel. So we're in a mess
United
right
States.
now. The world's in a mess, and people don't even see it, Rob.
Let's not forget that we are the big Satan, and so the little Satan is just the first one, and the big Satan is the big prize.
Oh, absolutely. That's what 9/11 was all about. As I said, Osama bin Laden was an offshoot, an off-break of the Muslim Brotherhood. And forming Al-Qaeda. The Muslim Brotherhood started in 1928, and they aligned themselves with Adolf Hitler in World War II to completely annihilate the Jews from the Middle East. We have pictures of Adolf Hitler meeting with Muslim Brotherhood leadership back during World War II. They're all over the Internet. It's no secret. This is a wicked, vicious circle of evil people and evil alliances, Rob. And, yes, the world should be deeply concerned. There has been no democratic process that has occurred in Egypt. This is a myth called the Arab Spring. It's a myth. I have friends deep inside of Israel, some of them who work for Israeli intelligence. I've had some on my radio program, some I just speak to personally, and they tell me that Israel is on high alert and is not going to allow another Holocaust. They will do whatever to defend themselves, regardless of the United States' position or the rest of the world's position. And I can't blame them.
I can't either. We're talking with Carl Gallups. We've got just a couple of minutes left. He's got a book right now called The Magic Man in the Sky. Also, we're talking today in particular about the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Let's go to the phones. And Greg, you're on with Carl Gallups. Go right ahead. We have just a little time left.
Okay, Carl, very quickly, I think the enemy is amongst us running the country. But the question I have is, with the Coptic Christians over in Egypt and the secularists, we fund Israel's military to a great extent. Are we going to continue funding that military over there if they persecute and kill Coptic Christians?
You mean we fund Egypt's military, right?
We've already had a plumber kill his wife, and we're sending money over there. So I would like to know if our Congress is going to stand up to the president and Hillary Clinton and say, hey, no more money if you're going to behave that way.
Yeah, he meant Egypt, I'm sure. I think we're funding, about $1.5 billion a year to Egypt right now?
That's correct. And Egypt is the 11th largest military in the world, and now it's in the hands of terrorists, and it's funded by the United States. The same people that brought down our buildings in 9/11, basically first cousins to them. That's who we now are supporting, and our current administration pretty much was responsible for propping them up. So, Greg, you've asked the million-dollar question. I don't know. We're holding our breath. We're praying. We're hoping against hope that a new administration and new congressmen will understand what you and I are understanding over the radio today. Some of them don't even get it. Anthony Weiner was married, a Jewish congressman married to a Muslim Brotherhood woman working in the White House, and no congressman ever said a word about it. And they all knew. So I don't know, Greg. I pray to the good Lord that somebody will stand up to this. If they don't, we will continue to be infiltrated. America will be gone. The Middle East will be in turmoil. But, I am a pastor and a Christian and a student of the Word, so I see an awful lot of prophecy being fulfilled in this as well.
And this is where I want to leave it, but this is where I want to pick it up next time, Carl, because you have the book, The Magic Man in the Sky.